strange moment of the draft was when the Vikings let Ed Marinara come out, and it was like the 1000th pick, and Marinara just kept going and going. And the commentators were like, you could tell they were like, will somebody shut this guy up? It was like Marinara hadn't been on a camera in 30 years. Yeah. By God, he's taken his moment.
Since Hill Street Blues, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
he played a cop on Hill Street Blues back in the day.
Yeah, and what is that? At least 25
Oh, that was the late 70s. Okay, guy you love to hate. Belichick's getting a lot of heat. People think he did awful, but he did pick the WKU quarterback, Baylor Zappi, so there's something there maybe. But what do you think?
Wouldn't you go ahead, T-Dog?
I was just gonna say, I think maybe he was taken a little early, Strange, but he wasn't gonna go that far later. I know there was that clip of McVay laughing that they thought they were gonna get him in 104. He was not gonna be around that long. Mm-hmm. He's a good player. Maybe it's weird that he went in the first round. He was probably gonna go in the second round. I don't know off the top of my head where New England was drafting in the second round. I don't know if he was gonna be there. Look, you can like their second round pick where they took the wide receiver from Baylor. You can joke on them on wide receivers. Under Belichick, as great as he's been a head coach, and he's possibly the greatest coach of all time, they miss on wide receivers all the damn time. All the damn time. They do not usually miss on offensive linemen. So Strange will probably work out. The Baylor wide receiver, I don't know. Again, you got to look at J.C. Jackson, who just got paid a decent amount of money to be the Chargers. I believe he was undrafted. Like, they know how to develop people, so maybe they don't always draft well, but they can develop people out of nowhere. So in the end, it's kind of a wash, I guess, to some extent. And obviously 2 years ago, it was pretty bad because they had to use so much in free agency, which is unheard of for New England. Mm-hmm. But, on paper, maybe yes. I mean, I'm not going to act like an analyst. I know certain players I like. I could kind of look at rosters and get a feel for what I think, but that's not necessarily true. Again, it's easy to, I guess, take shots at Belichick because obviously they're clearly not the team to beat anymore. And they probably aren't going to be for a few years with Buffalo being built as a juggernaut now, but they're still going to be in the playoffs. They're still going to be in the hunt. So,
what's your next question?
Belichick, his strength is in patchwork lineups.
True.
He's never really shown anything great in the draft. That's just not his forte. He seems to be able to mix and match and get people that other people have given up on, other teams have given up on. So you can't beat him up too much about the draft because that's never been where he excelled.
Now I will say, if I'm going to beat up a team on the draft,
pick it.
Look, this team has been great. And speaking of a team that had a great coach who could maybe patch certain things up, even though he didn't have to, they drafted well. I'm not saying they didn't draft well to an extent again. I just think they're delusional on some level. And I'll say this reason. The Saints, they traded up before the draft, and then they traded up during the draft to the number 11 pick so they could draft Chris Olave. Now, Chris Olave, again, in a vacuum, is going to be, I think, a good receiver. Now, I'll ask you all, do you think he can be a true number one receiver? Because that's the kind of draft capital you gave up for Chris Olave. Do you think he can be a Calvin Johnson, a Julio Jones level wide receiver?
Well, better question, who's going to throw to him?
That's the other problem is they had multiple guys. They could have gotten Corral. They could have gotten Ritter because obviously Ritter didn't go to the third round. Willis didn't go to the third round. The UNC quarterback didn't go to the fifth round.
Sam Howell.
Yeah, Sam Howell. He didn't go to the fifth round, right, Lugs? Or was it fourth?
Right.
It was fifth. Yeah. It was our top of the fifth. They could have had any of those guys.
Right.
And they are Winston, who I'm probably the highest on of the three of us. I still like him, but I'll even admit he's shaky. I mean, he's shaky. He's coming off a horrific injury, and he had problems with turnovers. I don't think that was completely on him. I guess I'm an apologist. I think some of it was Arians' system, but I worry about him. They are, and also they just signed Tyrann Mathieu. So they're of the mindset and I get it to some degree because I guess it was killing Titans the other way. Titans, I think, have an opportunity to really make a push for the title if they're healthy. I don't think the Saints with Winston, I don't think they are.
But they think they do. Is that what you're
They
saying?
think they do, yes.
Right.
So I think they're giving up all this draft capital to win now, and there's no way I see them doing it.
Lugs, didn't you say that Jameis likes to throw to the other team? Mostly the colors of the uniforms are wrong. Is that about right?
Well, yeah, what I was going to say was he can deliver the ball in the area. It's just it depends on how you define area and the plug where it needs to really hit. I mean, he often hits people in the elbows, behind them. So, yeah, it's going to be tough. I mean, if you look at a lot of the successful moments he's had with receivers, they've had to just find a way to grab that ball somewhere in the area. Now, you can't always be right in your hands. I get that. But still, yeah, when you're having to make those crazy miracle catches consistently, that's when you get picked off.
Hit them between the numbers. That's why the numbers are on the uniforms. Let's aim for that.
Yeah.
All right. What other highlights? Or do you want to do sports of yesteryear and we'll come back, or Lugs or T-Dog go ahead?
We can do sports of yesteryear. Yes, sir.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Hang on a minute. I got to find that. Here it comes.
Hey.
Says sports of yesteryear for Lugs. He's here with us today. He's going to talk to us about the sports that came back in the day. Babe Ruth, Henry Aaron, and Marcus Mariota, maybe. I don't know. Here he is.
All right. 1869. Cincinnati Red Stockings play their first official professional baseball game with a win against the Great Western Baseball Club. 45-9. 45-9, friends. Cincinnati would certainly like to have a few of those runs these days.
Amen.
Since they can't even score at all. 1935, 61st Kentucky Derby. Willie Saunders aboard Omaha wins in 2 minutes and 5 seconds. And the as yet unborn Peyton Manning found a city that he could use during his NFL calls. Omaha, Omaha, Omaha. 1963, pitcher Bob Shaw sets a record with 5 balks in a game. People were just like walking from the dugout to get on base with this guy. 1968, first ABA, that's American Basketball Association Championship. Pitt Pipers beat the New Orleans Buccaneers 4-3. 1984, Dave Kingman's fly ball never comes down. It sticks in the ceiling at the Metrodome, sticks in the ceiling. And for our international folks, 1994, Arsenal of England wins the 34th European Cup against Parma of Italy, 1-0 in Copenhagen. And they only had to go into about 12 hours of overtime to finally score a goal. That is this version of sports of yesteryear.
Why, thank you, Lugs. Actually, that would be 1-0 in soccer talk, I think. 1-0. Okay, give me the date of that Reds game again.
1869.
Okay.
First year professional ball.
Do you know they're having their worst year in the history of the team? At 3 wins and 20 losses as they've started the season this year. That's a lot of freaking history.
Yeah.
3 wins, 20.
I bet you could get a cheap seat going to the stadium now, baby.
I bet we could go live from there and not even have to pay. You're looking live at a partial sellout at Great American Ballpark. 47 people. Oh, gosh. Okay. Hey, news and notes.
The only thing worse was the USFL. I watched that Birmingham game. I got to tell you, if there were 500 people there, I would find it hard to believe that they said, there was nobody there.
Or newsflash, did you know all the games are in Birmingham?
Yeah.
I didn't know that till like last week. I'm like, what? So the whole league's being played in whatever Bear Bryant Stadium or whatever that is.
Yeah, and so if you have any interest in making your home team's games, you don't have a home team.
Just go to one place.
And not everybody finds Birmingham, the jewel of the South. So,
well, also to be fair to Birmingham, I mean, again, I'm not going to crack it. I've never been to Birmingham. I'm sure it has nice parts of it. Lugs, you've probably been to Birmingham, but I'll put it this way: to be fair to people in Birmingham, even people in Birmingham is like, all right, I went to the game last week. It's like, no, they go to all 4 games this weekend. It's like, no, there's other things to do to watch than you watch mediocre football.
We got a 4-pack ticket pack for you, $32. You know, come on in. And then can you imagine the vendor, the guy of the merch? You know, do you guys have the who are they? The Commodores? Who is it? USFL, whatever they
Commodores.
Generals. The Generals. You guys have the Generals. He switches the display to get the Generals jerseys above the whatever.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, he would just wear one hat for one game and another hat. And I mean, you know.
It sets up for all kinds of good things. All right. What do you got? What else? Any more draft talk? You got a little bit more?
Yeah, I guess.
Yes, please.
In terms of, just because J-Boy, this is where J-Boy and I could our 2 minutes on the Bears. So obviously, it sounds like you did not like. And also, Lux kids said it on this. So how did you feel? It obviously didn't sound like that good.
The Bears, me?
Yeah, I'm asking you, J-Boy.
Oh my gosh, I thought it was horrible. I mean, I know they had to trade all those picks last year to get Justin Fields, which, you know, that's still a big question mark. More and more, it appears to be. So I just don't understand them. You know, you thought you had this new regime coming in and you don't get much in results, but I guess time will play it out. I don't really have any concrete evidence, but we'll see.
I will put it this way. I think I'll look at it glass half full. The one thing I like, the one I'll look at it both ways. Glass half full. They drafted best player available, and that's what you usually want your general manager to do. And also, there was a problem with their secondary. So they got Kyler Gordon, and they got Jaquan Brisker with their 2 second-round picks, and both those guys will be starting. And it sounds like Brisker, again, kind of like Pascal, he has leadership tendencies, which is good with the young roster because they're going to be a very young roster. They need that. And I think some of their developmental people that they got in the back end of the draft, I think they'll become contributors. I don't know if I'd say starters, but they'll definitely probably start it for certain games. I don't know if they'll be 17 games for 8+ years. I think they will help. I think that was good that they traded back and got all those people. Glass half empty. I kind of look at Justin Fields and I understand with free agency, there wasn't a lot of sexy wide receivers and tight ends available, but when they took Velus Jones, and I'm not saying he can't work out, but you're just telling me that I know he runs a 4.3 and I know he's fairly athletic. That being said, he's going to be 25 fairly quickly, and he is not a really refined wide receiver. So you're getting a good kick returner. He was on first team SEC. Right. So obviously he's very talented kick returning, but you got a guy who is not refined as a wide receiver who is going to be 25 recently. And you took him in the 3rd round. You couldn't find a better wide receiver. And now look, they can evaluate talent better than I do. But it feels like that being the main thing you got in the draft for him. And then a bunch of guys who are offensive linemen, but they were drafted in the 5th round or deeper. Mm-hmm. One of those guys might develop into a starter, but you know, history shows that most of them will not. So that's the thing I worry about, is kind of like what probably J-Boy feels, is like you get this guy in Justin Fields last year. I know it was a different regime, but you are going to go at the end of the 2nd year. You can't even evaluate him because you didn't put anything around.
I'm afraid he's just going to be scrambling back there just like last year and running for crazy and getting hit a lot. And it could be really not a good thing.
How do you feel, Lugs?
They didn't help themselves. I mean, that's the bottom line takeaway for me. I would have thought that they would have got themselves like a left tackle, somebody
to protect him. Yeah.
To give him just that moment, because that kid, he's talented. We all know that, but in the NFL, you got to give him more than a second and a half. You got to give him 2 seconds. You know, a whole lot of lookout blocks last year where guys are yelling at him, "Look out!" You know, so they got to fix that.
Like I said, overall, I actually feel okay about the draft. I don't feel bad about it because I do respect Poles, and I'm blanking on, I believe it, his assistant manager. They both know how to identify offensive linemen. And if you look at all those late guys they took, they all have specific athletic traits that they had to meet. Mm-hmm. So they have an idea on what they specifically want. and they're putting a lot of trust in the offensive line coach to develop